yesterday marked the 5th anniversary of the passing of Chadwick Boseman. And, you know, I told this story on the show yesterday, but I'll never forget because Anne and I believe our friend Ryan, we were sitting down in our living room in Burbank. We were still living in Burbank at the time. We were sitting down in our living room in Burbank and watching the brand new Bill and Ted movie. That wasn't very good, but we sat down to watch the new Bill and Ted movie, and my phone starts blowing up. And I'm ignoring it for a minute or two. And then I think Anne was the first one that said, "Oh my God." She goes, "You look at your phone?" I'm like, "No." And news came across that Chadwick Boseman had passed away. And it is so weird to think of it as being 5 years ago. Honestly, if somebody came into the room yesterday to me and said, "Hey, did you know it's the 2nd anniversary of Chadwick Boseman passing away?"
I'm right there.
You know what I mean? I totally would have been like, "Oh, wow. Yeah, it has been a couple." It's been 5. It's been 5. I can't even wrap my head around that it's been that long. And so, you know, yesterday I was thinking about Chadwick Boseman and obviously his incredible career. Because remember, guys, he delivered world-class performances outside of the MCU. I mean, in the MCU, yes, but also outside of the MCU. He was truly one of our next great actors.
Oh, like Get On Up.
Oh, he was so good in Get On Up.
Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, which was one of his last performances.
Which came out after his passing.
Yeah, and you could see how thin he was, but he gave it his all, man.
The Jackie movie. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal. And obviously when I think about him passing, I think about all the ways that we were robbed of his gift.
Yeah.
You know, as film fans, obviously there are people who were robbed of a lot more. Those who knew him and loved him and were close to him, they lost a lot more. But even just the rest of us, we were robbed of his tremendous gift that he shared with the world. And he shared his gift with the world in a way that kind of brought the world together and kind of elevated people in the world. I mean, it was a special gift. He was a special performer. But as I thought about that, I started thinking also specifically about the Marvel Cinematic Universe. That here we are now, 5 years later, and about what would the MCU have looked like today had Chadwick Boseman not passed away? And I wanted to talk about a couple of things that I thought were like direct, you know, ramifications of the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman, just on something as simple as a cinematic universe. Firstly, and most obviously and most directly, a big impact on Black Panther 2, right? A specific movie that director Ryan Coogler, who, and for the record, I don't think Black Panther 2 is all that good, but director Ryan Coogler faced an impossible task. I mean, how do you direct that movie? It's very reminiscent of having to finish Fast and the Furious. Was it 7 they had to finish or 8 they had to finish?
7.
It was 7. Trying to go back and finish Fast and the Furious without Paul Walker. I mean, and what they did with that was really admirable. And the whole idea of your quarterback all of a sudden wasn't there. The one who was like everybody was close to and everybody loved, and he was your star and he was your main character, and being gone, it was an impossible task. So even though I'm not a big fan of that movie overall, I don't know that any other director in the world could have stepped into those circumstances and done any better. I mean, it was a near impossible task. And so you had a film that, while it's still, I mean, hey, it made over $800 million.
Yeah.
But that was like 37% less than what the first one made. And it was clearly only because of the loss of Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah.
It also brought up a debate that has been raging ever since. The debate of, did they make the right or the wrong move by also killing off his character, T'Challa? And I have always felt this way about it. That number one, I respected their decision to have the character die with Chadwick. I respected the decision. I did not agree with it. I'll get to that in a second. But I respected it because it came from a place of love, right?
Yeah.
The decision came from a place of humanity and love and respect. Well, at least how they felt would be the respectful thing to do. And so because of that, I've never called them crazy for killing off the character. Because I know the motivation was from a good place. That doesn't change the fact that I still think it was a mistake.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. One of the things I've always said, Rob, was in terms of respect, I just don't feel the respectful thing to do was to refuse to carry on what Chadwick started. I don't see that as the most respectful thing to do. I know their motivation was respect. I'm not questioning that at all. But to me, when you look at what Chadwick did with Ryan Coogler, with Kevin Feige, but he was the guy in front of the camera manifesting this character who not only became important to the MCU, but I would propose and submit to everybody that this character became important to our society and our culture and kind of what he represented for audiences and stuff like that. And to me, I believe the more respectful thing to do would be to say, rest in peace, King. Don't worry. We've got you. We've got your back. What you worked on isn't going to die. We will pick up the baton for you and we will carry it on to continue your legacy and to continue on your work and to bring this incredible gift of a character to continue on for our cinematic universe, but also his importance to our culture. I just always felt that was important. Now, moving beyond the respect and the humanity of it, business, right? I thought the respectful thing to do was to carry it on and to recast the role. But I also think from a business point of view, it would have been better for the cinematic universe as a whole that so many millions and millions and millions of people loved, partially because of Chadwick Boseman's contributions. Because you could feel it, Rob, in the MCU as a whole. Black Panther suddenly not being there, T'Challa suddenly not being there. You could feel in the MCU since then, Rob, this was not their plan.
Yeah.
They had designs. They had machinations. They had plans. There's a schemer. They had plans about this central figure that T'Challa was going to play moving forward in this cinematic universe. And not just the constant scurry to reevaluate and course correct in Black Panther 2, but the constant scurrying and course correcting that his absence is suddenly felt, that T'Challa's absence was suddenly felt in all of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And I can't help but wonder, what would the MCU look like today, August 29th, 2025, had the great Chadwick Boseman not passed away? Now, I'm not saying everything would have been roses and all the ills would have been cured and everything that's gone wrong wouldn't have gone wrong. I'm not suggesting that, but I do wonder what his passing has really done in a domino effect, cascading effect, if you will, on the cinematic universe itself. And it just compounds the tragedy even more. I mean,
Hey guys, John here. If you're dying for the next batch of Wednesday Season 2 to drop on Netflix, then I'll let you in on a secret. The Wednesday Season 2 official WoCast is already here. Prepare to dive deeper into the mysteries of Wednesday with the ultimate companion video podcast. Join the frightfully funny Caitlin Riley, along with her producer, Thing, as she sits down with the marvelous cast and crew. Together, they'll unravel shocking twists, dissect the dynamics lurking beneath, unearth the deep Addams Family lore, and answer all of your lingering questions that simply refuse to stay buried. Guests include Emma Myers, Joy Sunday, Steve Buscemi, Fred Armiston, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and of course, Jenna Ortega. With 8 delightfully dark episodes to devour, you'll be drawn deeper into the haunting halls of Nevermore Academy than ever before. But be careful, you know where curiosity often leads. The Wednesday Season 2 official WoCast is available now in audio and video on Todoom.com, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you find your podcasts. You've been warned.
I think even now, Rob, 5 years later, I think we're still discovering bruises that his passing has caused. And that's what those are just some of the thoughts that cross my mind as we hit I still can't believe it, Rob, the 5-year mark since the passing of the great Chadwick Boseman. Anyway, it's been now 5 years. Does it not feel that long ago like it does to me for you? And what do you see as like the impact that his passing has had on us?
I mean, I think everything you said was absolutely spot on. He was such a great performer. And look, the man, what happened to him, he took it. If you want to look at somebody to admire about how they took this kind of a tragedy, I mean, he's a template for all of us. I mean, in the face of death, he continued on and delivered incredible work.
And kept very private
about it. But I mean, it was amazing. I don't know how he did it. He was probably in such pain. I look at Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and I can't help but be like, my God, that guy worked through such pain to give us something wonderful. But when it comes to the MCU, what Black Panther would have brought if Black Panther continued on was it would have centered the MCU.
Yeah.
And, Black Panther being introduced, the introduction of him in Civil War was so great. And with the loss of Steve Rogers and Tony Stark, if Black Panther was still there, he would immediately have been slotted in to the head of the MCU. He would have headed up the Avengers. Wakanda had now revealed itself to the world.
Yeah.
So suddenly Wakanda would be put on the world stage. You could have built Avengers headquarters in Wakanda, because it has the technological advancement. You would have had Stark tech, and then imagine if a movie like Captain America: Brave New World, when Sam Wilson, because he had Wakandan technology, but imagine Wakanda leading the charge with Tiamat, the emerging Sentinel, the emerging Celestial coming out of the ocean. It would have been Wakanda at the forefront of that, going, we'll handle this. And the rest of the world going, no, you can't do that. And rather than go to war with Japan, which was ridiculous, the United States, the conflict would have been with Wakanda, which would have centralized. It seemed odd that we don't bring up China at all, but we're going to go to war with Japan in that movie. That movie just didn't ring true. But if Wakanda had become the central focus, or basically the capital of Earth for the MCU, and you had Chad Boseman leading that charge, the MCU could add, it would have been really interesting to see the relationship, say, Peter Parker would have had with him.
Right.
And instead of a Tony Stark mentor, I'm not saying that he would have been a mentor, but you would have been able to have a central focus that the MCU was missing through the multiverse saga, because it's kind of all over the place. But like at the end of Shang-Chi, it would have been really interesting to see, like when he's talking to all the people about the 10 rings, to have Black Panther is one of them. Well, sure, we'll be looking into this. We'll be sending our envoys to get the rings. Whatever. It could have been, and if we had that central focus, it would have been something like, oh, how's this going to move forward? And now it's kind of been adrift, because we still don't even know who the Avengers are. I mean, we know who the new Avengers are, but who is Sam Wilson's Avengers team that we heard about at the end of Thunderbolts?
Well, I know who one of them is. The new Falcon, who hasn't done anything except fly into his first fight and end up in the hospital. That's the Sam Wilson Avengers.
I mean, that's the thing, and it would have been really interesting.
Here's an interesting question, though. I think we all agree that, look, for 15 plus years, the heart and soul of the Marvel Cinematic Universe was Steve and Tony, right? They were the two pillars. I don't think they would have put all of that on T'Challa or all of that Chadwick. But I think we all agree they clearly had designs that T'Challa was going to be one of those. Who do you think, maybe a Doctor Strange, or who do you think, maybe Spider-Man, who do you think they were envisioning? Because clearly Black Panther was one of them. Who do you think they could have also been looking at to be that second pillar, that heart and soul part of the MCU?
I mean, I think if Chad Boseman hadn't passed away, they might have reconceptualized Namor.
That's an idea.
The Talocan Empire or whatever was it was a big departure, because I understand what, using that part of the world and putting in Mexican, South American, and Central American culture. That made sense. I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting, but in a way, it made Namor seem less like. I think that obviously the technology was on par with Wakanda, but it would have been interesting to, like, I could have seen at the end of that movie, T'Challa and Namor becoming a force. Like these two, you had two emerging powers on the world stage that were more technologically advanced than us mere humans, and watching the two of them be at odds, but then also deal with the rest of the world. And they have to figure out, look, our threats are extraterrestrial now. We're multiversal. We got to put aside our petty differences on Earth.
Because they have a rich and complicated relationship in the comics.
And I think that would have been really interesting. And then, of course, you would have had Kamar-Taj, what's left of it or whatever. And there's all these different fantasy powers on Earth now that would have made the Marvel Cinematic Universe growing up much more interesting from a geopolitical perspective, which would have given it more of a storytelling perspective.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? First of all, are you like me where it's like, it's been 5 years? I mean, I got to admit that kind of threw me off, but what do you see as some of the ramifications that we've had and the way that the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman has changed things? I think we're still discovering ways that it's impacted, not just, fandom, but the industry as a whole and the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Anyway, guys, whatever you feel, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.